Hi, I'm Charlene Laney, co-founder of Newmaker Financial and certified financial planner. In this video, we're going to be talking about some tips we'd like to share with you on how to talk to your partner about money. Now, you probably are already having your wheels turning about this, as this tends to be a very common point of contention between romantic partners, is just the topic of money in general. Now, there was a study done in 2017 by Ramsey Solutions that found a very obvious correlation between the level of debt that a couple carried and the severity of arguments that that particular couple had about money. On the flip side, more positive note, those who said that they had a great marriage tended to discuss their money dreams and their future with their spouse. I recognize it can be very difficult to do those things when there's a lot that's getting in the way. And there's no doubt that financial insecurity, like other types of insecurity, tend to be a barrier to happy relationships. And if you're like most of us, you're probably tempted to simply avoid the conversation altogether in order to preserve the day-to-day harmony in your relationship. And I'm sure that you have either seen firsthand or watched other people have very difficult conversations and know exactly to the extent how difficult these can be. And we get that here at Newmaker. We are here to remind you, though, that just like in all other areas of your relationship, financial wellness should be a priority. It is crucial, in fact, to your relationship lasting. So here are some tips that we recommend for making these conversations easier. Number one is we recommend that you let go of judgment and meet your partner where they're at. Now, this can be judgment as well of yourself, directed internally, not just the judgment you have for your partner. Because everyone has different attitudes about money. We tend to assume that everyone has the same attitudes that we do about money because we generally don't assess where we developed these attitudes, but we can talk more about that later. That ties in as well with the different values that we have about money. And chances are that your spouse or partner's values are different from yours. So please just make space for that in these conversations, and that tends to go a long way. Recognize as well, number two, that these arguments about money are actually not about money, believe it or not. So have some self-awareness for yourself and identify the feelings that come up. Be able to communicate or practice communicating what comes up for you with your partner in order to set a good example so that they can do the same to you. Now, these arguments, of course, could be coming from various insecurities about not being good enough, not earning enough money, not being smart enough about money. It can tie into how people define their self-worth, their ideas about their role as a man or a woman in the relationship. It could be related to power dynamics. There's just so much that can actually be going on here. So recognize that these arguments are usually not just about the money. There's more going on. Now, the third thing, a little bit more practical that you can put into that you can implement in your relationship here right away, is to make these conversations regular. Make them at least once a month. Figure out a cadence that works well for you and your partner, and to commit to those things. The more often, the more frequent we can make these conversations, the more we're able to desensitize all of the emotions that tend to come up around money. And if you just become more comfortable with it, just like when you're starting to drive, as you're learning to drive, you're really freaked out about crashing into some inanimate object, or worse, another person in their car. But as you get comfortable driving, the more you do it, you don't even really think about it. You find yourself getting from point A to point B wondering, how in the world did I get here? And that's just because it's been desensitized. You do it so often. Do the same thing with your conversations about money with your spouse. We recommend either setting money dates, on once a month, special occasion, agree to set aside an hour of that dinner to just talking about money, whether it's your feelings about money, your plans for the future, or the specifics of your budget, whatever the case may be. Set aside that time and be dedicated to it. And if you run into a snag where it starts getting heated, it starts getting personal, argumentative, agree to give yourself a little bit of a pause. This is a great tool that you two can use. And by the way, can be used for any conflict conversation that you have with your partner, but give yourself 15 minutes of a timeout. You either step away for 15 minutes, come back and talk about it, or you just agree to talk about something else for 15 minutes and then come back to this same topic when the time is right. So I hope that this has been helpful. We do recommend talking about money. Avoiding it altogether is something that can be unfortunately detrimental to your relationship in the long term if you are so hyper-focused on just maintaining the harmony in the short term. So please put in an effort. Try to have these conversations on a regular basis. Recognize that these arguments that you run into are usually not about money. And, also as you go through this, let go of judgment for yourself, let go of judgment for your partner, and meet each other where you're at. If you have any questions about this or want to talk further, you know where to find us. And if you haven't yet, like, share, and subscribe. We will see you next week.